And with me, you've got Lynne Marlor, Masha, Vyazemskaya. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. It's maybe kind of close. And Gary Leuis to come up and explain. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Whoa, those lights.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hi
Good
there.
afternoon.
Well, I guess we can start with a quick round of introductions.
Yeah. So I'm Lynne Marlor. I'm currently the chair of the Boston Blockchain Association and an executive in residence at the Global Blockchain Business Council. Traditional banker, spent 30 years in finance, which wasn't that fun, but I hope there are no bankers here. But and started my crypto journey in 2018, and the rest is history. I'm working on an NFT project, which I'll tell you about in a little bit.
Yeah, my name is Masha, and yeah, my last name was pronounced a bit wrong, but that's fine because it's long. I am a head of communications and marketing at Rarible, which is an NFT marketplace and protocol. I've been a part of the team pretty early on for about 2 years. And seen a lot of partnerships kind of coming into life. So yeah, happy to be discussing that here today.
Hi, I'm Gary Leuis. I am the founder of Sovereign Ventures. We are an NFT project accelerator. Today, I'm going to talk about an example we have of a partnership that worked out for everybody. But I want to talk a bit about sort of what I see are the struggles in partnerships, developing partnerships, and developing community to get to the place of partnership. So establishing yourself as a viable partner for culturally and commercially relevant partnerships.
Yeah, maybe, we can probably talk a bit about like what works and then like what doesn't work when we're talking about partnerships.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that I got engaged with early December. It's a company called Wendell August Forge. Probably never heard of it. It's a 100-year-old manufacturing company, and they're actually artisans, and they create metal artifacts. And they gift with meaning, and they have 3 different verticals that they play in. One is in holiday ornaments. That could be 4th of July, that could be Christmas, that could be Thanksgiving, October, Easter, you name it. They also play in the college and university space. They make a lot of ornamental gifts for holidays and universities, your college logo on something. And the 3rd vertical is they do some sports teams, primarily in the hockey space. They approached me to pull a team together to do an NFT. This is a 100-year-old manufacturing company out of Pennsylvania. And I pulled together a team. And I think this is a really important thing is, finding the right partners in this journey, I did not think was easy. I grew up in banking where I called someone and they sent up the people that I needed, right? You really have to go out there and research and find them. I was lucky with my partner. We have a business called Transformation Strategies, and she and I worked together and found the right people. We found an artist in the mountains of Lebanon. We found an art director in Paris. We found a DevOps in London. The head of the company, the chair of the company is out of North Carolina. The company's in Pennsylvania. She and I are out of Boston. We have a community manager out of DC. We have a marketing firm out of Boston. I mean, it's just this universal partnership. And we're going to be launching shortly the first ever NFT for this company that comes with a physical component as well. So I'll tell you more about that later. But
I guess for me, when I think about partnerships, there are so many like different players that come in, and I think what makes the space special is that you need, certain artistic expertise. So like, you need to have an artist on board, and then you need to have like people who are really vocal in this space, some sort of like influencers, and then like brand partnerships come in. It's like so many things happening at once. I think for me, like I've seen like a lot of things happening, during my journey with Rarible. And I guess like what like the most successful partnerships typically are just like those that come together naturally. So like if it's something that's being like forced on on the audience, on the community, and like trying like to like really fit things together that do not fit, that typically just like doesn't work. Because I think what makes Web3 different from Web2 is that like when you just go ahead and announce like, here, we made a partnership, like, the crowd may go like, woo, but then probably like they won't really care after that. So it really needs to be very organic. It really needs to be, I think, kind of like community sourced. So listening to your community, like whether you are, like a marketplace or a brand or a team, like actually getting, out there, to like Twitters and Discords and so on, and like listening to them, like who they would like to see as your partner, on the next stage of your project. That is probably key.
Yeah, I agree. As Masha said, from our experience as project accelerators, when projects come to us and creatives have amazing ideas and they want to operationalize those ideas kind of right away, very often they want to just go right to market, figure out who the best partner would be immediately. They might have just set up their Discord. They might have just created their product altogether, and they want to create these partnerships that they don't have a community established yet. They haven't figured out what their values are yet. They haven't figured out what their goals are yet. Therefore, they haven't been able to develop the type of organic community that's necessary to be established before you even think about a partnership, before you even think about who's going to come into your space and see you as an asset to their company, to their brand, and how are you going to benefit each other mutually. And so a big part of our discussion with project owners is really to we tend to say pull the reins back a little bit, be a little more gradual in the way you develop. Let's think about this from a more long-term organic perspective, because partners are everywhere. I mean, partners are out there. People are dying to get into the space, as everybody knows. And I think, as Masha said, the culturally relevant point of the title here is so important, right? You can't kind of get that wrong. If you come in with a pure Web 2 mentality, corporation, just trying to you have a great IP, let's go, let's get an influencer in here, let's get some Twitter spaces up and just cram it in, not listen to feedback, it's going to be a disaster. You really get one shot at this in some ways, I feel like. You can always pivot, but I do feel like if you fall on your face in terms of your brand reputation, it's very difficult to recover from that. And so as mentors or advisors, what we often do is we really try to slow things down and try to understand what project owners are actually trying to accomplish. And then from there, we can build a community in such a way that partners will gravitate. And really, it's at that point, we can kind of pick and choose.
I think you brought up a really good point, because one of the issues that we have at this 100-year-old manufacturing company, kind of started the project thinking one and done. I'm going to issue an NFT and I'm done. And, my journey is, number one, you have to be super nimble, because we don't know if this timing is right. We don't know if this product is right. We don't know if this vertical is right. And we're just dipping our toes in. And you also have to have a journey that you aren't going to just get rid of this. What happens in 6 months? Is there someone I can call if I want to call about my NFT? Or, they have a brand that is extremely well known and revered for 100 years. But what I'm convincing them is you really need to have a long-term strategy. You need to pick a product manager or a community manager to run this project long-term, years. And, it starts to become a financial issue of, well, how much money, how long, until I see, until I get the Bored Apes, right? So I think your point was so well taken.
Yeah, I think a couple of good examples that come to my mind that I had a chance to work on is one was when Twitter dropped their 140 NFT collection, which Wearable was a partner for, and I think it was a fantastic example of a brand entering the space just because they made it right for their community. They did it in a way that really made sense. So in their case, that was just giving away NFTs for free and just tweeting out hey, who wants an NFT, but really making a cultural phenomenon out of it in a sense. So I think that was fantastic. And just recently we also had another brand, G-Star, a fashion brand that entered the space. And I think a lot of fashion brands did their attempts to launch their NFTs, not necessarily always successful. But in G-Star's case, that was a really good example where they also just did something that made sense for their community. Because I think also when we're talking about partnerships and just launching something to the market, surprisingly a lot of teams, they just fail to answer the question who is your target audience? And typically the answer you would hear is, well, the NFT community, which is pretty ironic because it's not something that exists. Well, it does exist, but it's so diverse at this point. There are so many different blockchains and groups and people who have different interests for collecting or flipping or like whatever that is. Everybody has their own interest. So I think that's, the major mistake, that I've seen, at least, from like someone coming outside of Web3 to the space, like selecting a few partners, putting their logos on, and then just saying, well, like, yeah, here's an NFT exactly like you said, which does not necessarily work. Yeah, so I think like this cultural relevance and like asking first, like who would even, like buy it, like who would hold this NFT, who will benefit from this NFT, like what value do I bring, to this specific audience is, yeah, I find it really surprising that teams fail to answer this question at first. But yeah, that's what makes it super, super like important when even before we're starting to talk about partnerships that might matter.
Yeah, I agree. I do see that mistake often with Web2 companies and huge IPs that are coming into this space. They do have this idea that we have this amazing community, and all we need to do is binary. We launch it up with the NFT community, and it's like, that's not exactly what the NFT community is. That's not how it exists. You need to learn this a little bit. You need to get in there and do the work, source around. And one of the best examples I have of a project that we worked with that grew organically and knew what they wanted when we engaged is a project called Smiles. And the artist is Wahid Zai. It's one of my favorite projects that we worked with. He's an amazing creative artist in his own right, but also he has an amazing story. He's an Afghan-American young artist who got a lot of recognition in the hip-hop community. He'd done an album cover for Pooh Shiesty, big artist, and he also had done a Supreme t-shirt. And so he had some recognition in the tangible space and in products, but he was trying to really break into the NFT space. And so he was just kind of hustling, and he reached out to the right people and developed the right community and got the right advisors around him. And when he did that, he built a rabid fan base over 9-10 months, which in the NFT community obviously is like 15 years. And he did it right. So when it came time to launch the Discord, at that point when we engaged, they knew they just wanted a broader audience because they had their rabid fan base. And so we actually thought about, well, what would be a great partner to bring them to a larger scale audience and hopefully even bring Web2 audience into what they're doing. And so we were able to introduce them to CNBC and to the Shepard Smith show. And we got Wahid a personal story because that show specifically does personal angles and stories. Most people associate CNBC with money shows and money matters and analytics. And we knew that wouldn't have been a good fit for this particular brand. So they loved the idea at Smiles. The Shepard Smith show loved the idea. The show went on, that Twitter clip of that interview became the most viral clip that show's ever seen by like 1,000-fold or something crazy. And it also helped out, directly it affected the floor price, obviously, of the Smiles project. But now, follow on, he has the credibility of that clip that they're going to use in all sorts of ways. And a lot more people obviously know them. They reached hundreds of millions of households. And people in the NFT community were excited about that clip too, because it meant that we could do that, that obviously they're getting the recognition for the right reasons, not just stories about Ponzi's and fraud and somebody making $69 million. It was more realistic, more tangible, and it was amazing to bring that community together, have that personal effect with a partner that valued that personal angle.
Yeah, I was, the project that I'm working on, I think there are two really markets they're trying to serve, which gets complicated. So the first market is they have a 75,000 numbered mailing list for this traditional company, but the demographics are a 45-year-old woman. So not your typical Web3, right? I mean, Web2 might be a stretch, but so we trying to bridge the gap between that and the NFT community. And I would agree with you that building that community, we have spent hours and strategy and design and thinking and how do we get that community interested in this company, 100-year-old company. So we've done a lot of exciting things. We haven't hired influencers yet, but I think that's coming. We're looking at the metaverse as a way to take this company more to NFT players, games, so we've got like 3 different things we're working on right now to expand it, to bring in that community. But I would say that that's a challenge. I'm curious how you guys, did you face a challenge like that too? Because most don't have both of those that they're trying to do. They're existing clients and then NFT clients, bring them to the space.
Yeah, I think for wearable as a marketplace, it probably comes like on a different side of the table, for instance, so to say. But yeah, like something that we're actually working on right now is community marketplaces. So wearable is not only a marketplace, but also a protocol that powers community marketplaces of different collections, like with custom UX that are fully, community owned, decentralized. And in that sense, like how there was a lot of trial and error, throughout like 2 years that, wearable has been in the market, like almost 3 now. But how we approached that is what we thought, okay, like, so we want to, do a partnership with this collection. For instance, we just launched a marketplace for Emphors, which is a really cool collection, and just recently got a very interesting story around it with Satoshi, the original founder, just like exiting the room, so to say. And so, yeah, how we approach that is we talk to the community that we want to partner with. We talk to them. We ask them, like, what do they like? What they would want to see? Like, what would make a difference? What would bring value to the table for them? And we really come up with the format that we found really interesting is doing like the entire takeover of, an NFT collection that we're partnering with, like off wearable Twitter and wearable homepage. So really doing branded, we put our, wearable styled Emphor as our PFP, like doing community highlights. So we do things like interview highlights with like prominent community members, asking them why do they hold this NFT, like why do they what do they think about the recent events with, like in case of Emphors with Satoshi. So we're really going from the ground up, so to say, like finding ways to highlight. And then when media comes in, for instance, that is also very valuable for the community because they feel heard. And it's not, it's not about putting, wearable as a brand up front, like here, wearable made a partnership, but here's what value is being brought for the community. And in that regard, people from the community just pick it up instantly. We had a really cool hashtag being launched that was called Dress Up for Wearable, which was a community initiative just because they were kind of excited about the value that was brought to them, and it got viral on Twitter. That started with the Generate Ape Academy and Solana, who we also work with, and then kind of went on for different projects. So I think we always try to approach it to ask what would make sense, because we the challenges that we had throughout 2 years is exactly trying to crack the puzzle to understand what do people need, and the answer turned out to be go and ask them. Really just go talk to 100 people from the community that you're wanting to target, and they will most likely tell you what they want to see. So it probably sounds simpler than it is in fact the entire user research, but that's what the ultimate answer has come to be for us.
Yeah, I think the feedback component is so big. I was thinking about what I was going to say for this discussion in a few minutes, and how could we deliver value? What kind of sexy things can I tell you about how to go out and get partnerships? And the reality of it is I'm focusing mostly on the establishing your brand and establishing your community component of it, because that is what attracts the partnerships. And in order to do that, you have to have feedback. You have to be engaging. So I can't really go out there and say, this is how we went to CNBC, or this is how we go and get that partner. The partners are really out there. They really are. You kind of have to believe that if you build the right community and build the right brand. And so to answer your question, Lynn, one challenge that we had encountered with the project was a project called Capbotica, which I love. It's one of our current clients, and they're amazing for the same reasons you said that kind of what you've done with your project. They've outsourced. They've figured out how to find the best operational partners to let them be creatives and to let them be excellent and listen to their community. Their community is basically half Korean and half American, and so they've focused on listening to what the Korean community wants, what the American community wants, and how to kind of bridge these communities together, these NFT communities together, in a way that everybody feels like there's a collaborative effort happening. And they're doing it really well. And one of the things that we were challenged with was that traditional methods of feedback didn't seem like the best way to go with them, because they were already so established. So we initially held some Twitter Spaces. I was hosting some Twitter Spaces for them, but we really encouraged feedback, in a way that was direct. And so we were getting DM'd by everybody intentionally after these Twitter Spaces to say, because the art's unbelievable. This project, I love this project, so I'm biased. But these artists are animators that have won awards at Netflix. I mean, they're really excellent artists, and the art's amazing. But they just didn't have the message out there yet about what their intentions were and what their roadmap was and how they were actually going to execute on that, not some BS roadmap. And they actually got direct feedback, and we were using it in real time, and they still employ this. And I feel like that's why they're going to be a really healthy community going forward. And partnerships are going to be so much easier down the line because they've done this work right now.
I love that. I mean, I think that, you know, in looking at this project, a lot of what you said is just so relevant, you know, picking, you know, having that feedback. You know, feedback's always really like a gift, I think, but, you know, going out there, and we've done that with some of these clients, but I think we need to branch out to do more. And so it is a learning. You know, this is my first NFT project, I have to say. It's just been such an exciting journey. And I think the two things that, you know, when I look at overall, if I really narrow it down, like what was my not only learning process, but what were the things that I would really take away? And I guess for me, the first is, I did not realize, so for my next one, I'll do better if anybody's interested, but yeah, the community management side, that community build is so critical. Even if you have a 100-year-old brand, it's not the same community. And so that, and then the other piece, which we don't have to get into, but, you know, I love analytics, and I feel like, you know, the analytical tools that are existing in this marketplace that exist are so fabulous. You know, the kind of companies I call in may not be using these types of tools because they're not out there as much as like the NFT buyer and the social media, but those analytical tools to me, you know, I wish we had them day one. I didn't. And they would have told a story that would have helped me understand my client's marketplace better. So I guess if I'm going to leave with anything, it's like, if there are analytical tools, get them. Before you even start the project, you know, find out this marketplace. Who is it? What is it? What do they buy? How do they buy? The feedback loop, all those things. I would definitely do more of that up front. I'm doing it halfway, right? It's good, right? At least I'm doing it. But so, you know, I think those are the tidbits that I might leave behind, I guess. So, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I think if we probably have like a couple of minutes left, but yeah, if there was one thing I would kind of finish with is, like, Web3 is probably about collaboration. That is the spirit of Web3, and like almost everything that we talk about like daily that we see on Twitter is about partnerships. It is about collaborations. And also what I have found is that this community is so open to communicate. And like when we just started Wearable, like when I joined, we had like 2,000 followers on Twitter. So like we're super, super small. And what we just did, we mostly like talked to people on Twitter and DMs like, hey, we like what you're doing, like how we can get better, or like, hey, you know, we really like enjoy your, you know, your brand, your community. Maybe there's something that we could do together. So like really be very kind of low key in a sense, like very open to communicate and just like ask again, like just talk and ask, like if there, what is that we could do, like how we could bring value, like how we could, you know, enhance your experience. And yeah, and that has worked out pretty well for us. And I think it's really works from what I hear, like for a lot of people in the industry. So I would really like encourage everyone like for really open communication and just like getting out there, getting on Twitter and just like talk without like assuming too much and being like very attached to the outcome of that conversation, but just like see where it gets you, but always keeping in mind the question, like where I can bring in value.
Yeah, so true about the outcome attachment component of it. I don't know about you guys, but when coming to this conference, everyone's like, oh, go enjoy the Cry Fest. It's an NFT.NYC. Market's down. Everyone's going to be crying. It's going to be terrible. And I was laughing because, you know, now I'm talking to all project founders and everybody here. I don't know about your experience, and my experience has been that people are still extremely excited about the space.
Build time.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Building 5 to 10 years out, 20 years out. And now is the time, heads down, right, to do the building, to establish your brand, to establish your community. Go slow. There's no need to try to catch the wave of ETH at 4K and the market going rabid. Right now you have time to actually do this. You have time to do it right. You can be deliberate, you can be intentional about it, and you're going to draw the right partnerships in. And if you're actually here for the long haul, this is an unbelievable time to build. So my advice would be just use this time to be heads down, collect the feedback, be gradual, and enjoy sub 1,000 ETH. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone.
you very much.